In this section, I want to talk about clickers. Clickers and clicker training. Maybe you've heard about clicker training, maybe you've heard about clickers, maybe you're a little confused about clickers. So what I want to do is I want to teach you about them, and then I'm going to show you how to use a clicker to teach your dog for house training. So, a clicker is just basically, those little boxes that you get with some games when you were a kid. And what you're going to do is you're going to pair the sound of the clicker with something positive, like a treat. So the clicker in the beginning has absolutely no value to your dog. Nothing. None. Your dog can care less about the sound. But once you start to pair it with something like a treat, now it starts to take on some value. So you're going to start to treat, treat, treat. You can do this over and over. I want you to take a day or two and just click and treat. Don't do anything else. Don't ask them to do anything. Just click and treat. And what's going to happen is that your dog, eventually, when he hears that click, is going to pair it with, hey, I get a treat for that. This is a good thing. Just like Pavlov's dogs. If you've ever studied anything with classical conditioning, what you learned was this scientist back in the early 1900s, Ivan Pavlov, used to walk through bomb-ridden streets to get to his laboratory to study the gastrointestinal tract. And what it led to was him discovering classical conditioning. What he had was he had a bunch of dogs, and he would ring a bell and he would drop some meat powder into the dog's mouths. And he would do this over and over, bell, meat powder, bell, meat powder. Pretty soon, when the dogs heard the bell, before they even got the meat powder, they'd start to salivate. Oh, we're getting meat powder, we'd get all excited. And so that was the beginning of classical conditioning, what we now know as classical conditioning. And that's what you use a clicker for, is you classically condition the dog to hear the click and think, oh, good stuff is happening. Good things are going to happen, okay? So once it's classically conditioned, then you're going to do, it's called operant conditioning. You're going to start to use it to shape behaviors. This is where B.F. Skinner comes in. And operant conditioning is basically the operator, which is you, is conditioning the subject, which is your dog. So you're going to start to use the clicker to teach your dog, go outside. All right. So again, you have to go back to your management skills. You have to make sure that your dog is in a crate, keep an eye on him. But now when you get him outside, you have a communication tool that is excellent, because dog training really comes down to timing. And a lot of times our timing, if it's off even by a couple of seconds, the dog doesn't quite understand, what are you trying to get me to do here? Okay? And that's what happens with house training. As we've discussed in other parts, the dog starts to pee and you go, oh, good dog. Dog stops. He's not really sure. Okay? If the dog pees and then the second they're done, you reach in your pocket, pull out a treat, break it in half and give it to your dog, even though it's only a couple of seconds, that's still enough time to go by to not get the communication clearly across to the dog. The clicker, this speeds up the whole process, because the second your dog does something that you want them to do, you click and you let them know you're communicating to them. That's exactly what I want you to do. And now you give them the treat. Even though the treat comes a few seconds later, you've marked the behavior. Okay, so this is especially good for dogs that are having house training problems, because now once they start to learn the clicker, once you classically condition it, now when you bring them outside, the second they're done, right, you mark the behavior. Now you can give them the reward. Good dog! Okay, so I put a couple of other videos on clickers on the site for you to watch. Doesn't really have anything to do with house training, but just to give you a better understanding of clickers. And when you are going through the process with your dog, start taking the clicker outside with you. You might want to attach it to the leash or keep it by the door so that you can grab it as you're going outside. You go outside with your dog, the second your dog is done, remember, click. But this isn't going to work until you've charged the clicker. Until you spend some time clicking, rewarding, clicking, rewarding, clicking, rewarding, so that they have an association with it. Classically conditioned with the clicker, just the sound, treat, treat, and then operant condition, shape the behavior. Dog starts to go outside, the second they're done, let them know. Yes, good dog. Shape that behavior. As you shape behavior, the more you do it, the stronger behavior becomes. So over time, your dog will really start to get it. Hey, this guy wants me to go out here. Especially if you're doing everything else in the handbook. You're managing the dog, you catch him in the act, you feed him good food. All these things will come together, and the house training process will be piece of cake. So, try that out. If you have any questions, don't forget you can go to the House Training Forum and the Dog Training Inner Circle, and you can ask me questions personally. I can help you out. Thanks for watching. Good luck.